In 1918, a British soldier had a clear shot at a wounded enemy soldier stumbling across a battlefield in France. He had every reason to take it. War was raging around him. The enemy was right there, defenseless, directly in his sights. He lowered his rifle instead. The British soldier's name was Henry Tandey. Widely decorated, he would go on to receive the Victoria Cross, one of the highest military honors available, for his actions that day at the Battle of Markowing. The enemy soldier he allegedly spared was a young corporal in the German army. His name was Adolf Hitler. Before we go further, a necessary caveat. This story is genuinely disputed by historians. The timelines don't fully line up, the sources are inconsistent, and there is a real possibility it never happened the way it's usually told. But the story itself, true or not, has haunted people for over a century, because of what it forces you to imagine. The version most commonly told goes like this. Hitler himself apparently believed the story completely. Decades later, as leader of Germany, he reportedly kept a photograph of Tandey and spoke about the incident to a visiting British diplomat, remarking on the strange feeling of having survived that day, spared by an enemy soldier's mercy on a muddy field. If the story is true, one moment of basic human compassion on a battlefield in France may have allowed a man to survive who would go on to orchestrate the Holocaust and start a war that killed over 70 million people worldwide. Imagine carrying that weight, even just as a rumor about yourself. Now here's where this stops being a spooky historical footnote and becomes a genuine philosophical trap. If Tandey had pulled the trigger, would the world have been better? It feels obvious. Of course it would have. No Hitler, no Second World War, no Holocaust, tens of millions of lives saved in the process. But history rarely works in such clean, isolated lines. The conditions that produced Hitler weren't only about one single man. They were built from the devastation and humiliation of the Treaty of Versailles, the total collapse of the German economy, and a wave of extremist politics sweeping across an already unstable Europe. Remove Hitler from that exact moment in history, and you don't necessarily remove the underlying conditions that were already quietly assembling something terrible. You might simply remove one particular name from the outcome, while someone else steps in to fill the same vacancy. Historians sometimes call this the great man problem. Do individual people genuinely shape history through their own choices, or are they more like symptoms of forces already in motion, ready to be expressed through whoever happens to be standing in the right place at the right time? Tandey himself apparently struggled with the story for the rest of his life, reportedly saying he had no idea who the man was, and that he simply couldn't bring himself to shoot a wounded man who was already walking away. A basic act of human mercy, extended without a single shred of information about the future. And that's really the unbearable core of this story. He didn't choose to spare a monster. He chose to spare a wounded man, because sparing a wounded man is simply what decent people instinctively do. The horror, if any part of it is true, isn't in the choice he made. It's in what history apparently did with it afterwards. So here's the thought worth sitting with. Every single day, ordinary people make small, quiet, seemingly unremarkable, decent choices. Letting someone merge in traffic, forgiving a mistake, choosing kindness in a moment when cruelty would have been so much easier. You will almost never know what any of those choices genuinely led to, years or decades down the line. Most of the time, that uncertainty is a comforting thought. Every so often, in exactly the right corner of history, it might be the most unsettling thought imaginable.